in the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Week 17 Fantasy Football Running Back segment. I'm your host, Jim Sella. I'm in studio with J Dash, Big Easy, and Jeff Keel. Thank you guys for coming in studio. This will be our last running back fantasy football segment of the year. It's Week 17.
Thank Jesus.
Most of your leagues are probably already done, but there's some diehard leagues that run all 17 weeks. So let's get this started.
Get it in.
All right, Tier 1. Arian Foster, Le'Veon Bell, C.J. Anderson, Matt Forte, Jamal Charles, Lesean McCoy, DeMarco Murray, and Marshawn Lynch.
Jeff, didn't you have all those on the same team at one point?
Some of them. I've had DeMarco Murray, Marshawn Lynch. Yeah, I've had a good bit of these guys, actually.
Speaking of Murray, he is one guy that could definitely have a limited workload this week.
Yeah, he's been beating up his friends' girlfriends and then banging them, so his hand's broken. He played pretty well last week, but they already got pretty much everything locked up, the Cowboys, right?
Yeah. And Washington can stop the run. You got to check a game time. If they play him, I mean, he got you to this point, so you got to play him, but I'd keep a close eye on it.
Tier 2, must-starts right now. Eddie Lacy, Fred Jackson, and Justin Forsett. I'm surprised to see him up in a must-start right now role.
Justin Forsett?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had 2 down games in a row. He's starting to tell off, which is good for Pittsburgh Steelers fans if the Ravens do make the playoffs. But I'm still trusting him. He's been very consistent this season. He is questionable, but he is expected to play. I stick with Forsett.
Eddie Lacy, better season his rookie year or this year?
He was more consistent last season. He started the season hot and pretty much was good all season. This year, he started pretty slow, but then he came on in a big way, and he's been one of the best running backs in football. Tier 3, Matt Asiata, Rashad Jennings, Andre Williams, Alfred Morris, Mark Ingram, and Joique Bell.
Easy. I don't see Darren Sproles up here. You're about to shank Dash over here. What are you doing?
I told you I gave up on fantasy football already. It's over for me.
Well, listen, Rashad Jennings and Andre Williams, obviously you're not going to want to play both of these guys. You got to make sure Jennings is going to play. He is questionable. It's uncertain right now if he's going to go. If he does, he's probably going to split time with Williams. So if he goes, I would probably move them both down to maybe the bottom of Tier 4, the middle of Tier 4. But if just Andre Williams go, I would definitely start him and roll with him this week.
Jeff, I know you're pen pals with Mark Ingram. He's going up against Tampa Bay, who give up the 9th most points to fantasy running backs. What's he saying? I know he scored in each of the past 2 games, but he only totaled 97 yards rushing. Is he going to play? Are they going to be run heavy? The Saints, they've kind of lost it this year.
Inconsistency at wide receivers. New Orleans, let's face it, they've never really been a running offense. You've seen a lot of other half-decent backs there. Not since Deuce McAllister, actually. They actually had a solid, viable fantasy option.
Yeah, the Steelers signed the wrong Deuce.
Believe that.
Deuce Staley.
Tier 4, Jeremy Hill, Jonathan Stewart, and Boom Herron.
You're high on Pittsburgh's running defense. I'm surprised you got Jeremy Hill up in T4.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup because Pittsburgh's been good against the run pretty much all season long, but he has 295 yards and 3 TDs over his past 2 weeks. The Steelers shut him down pretty well in Week 14, but he's been one of the better running backs recently, and I'm going to stick with him at this point.
High on Heron's going to have a big game going up against Tennessee. What do we really have to say other than everybody knows their defense is garbage? Pretty much every running back that goes against them, even if they're garbage, has at least a half-decent day. Boom Herron had just 63 yards and no touchdowns over his last 2 games. Not a whole lot in the passing game. But, I don't know, as much as Indy doesn't have anything to play for, I think they want to get on track. They want to get that momentum going. So I think they're going to try to feature him in the offense to help Andrew Luck in the passing game with play-action passes.
Tier 5, Giovanni Bernard, Latavius Murray, Lamar Miller, and Trey Mason. Bernard, 5 receptions for 45 yards and a TD last week. He's had 2 good games in a row now. ESPN and Yahoo are saying don't play him. He's not going to do much, but he looks like he's gotten back on track in this offense and is getting enough touches. I see no reason not to play him, especially in a game like this where they're going to stop. I think the Steelers can stop the run up the middle, so he could be used in the passing game as well.
Screen passes to Gio.
Trey Mason, he played okay last week. He had 76 yards and a TD versus the Giants. He had 85 yards and a touchdown against Seattle in Week 7, but this game is in Seattle. They are much better in Seattle. They let up the 7th fewest to fantasy running backs. This is going to be a tough week for him. He's not the worst play, but I'd temper my expectations with him.
Well, how about Latavius Murray? He's a guy that might have a solid game at Denver rather. He's a guy that's been touching the ball a lot lately. I mean, the lack of scoring might be a little bit of a concern, but catching the ball out of the backfield and getting like 80 to 90 yards rushing, that's a solid double-digit day's work right there.
PPR, boy.
Denver's run defense fell off a little bit recently, and like you said, Latavius Murray's been getting the ball a lot. He has 20 or more carries in 2 of his last 3 games. They're trying to feature him in the run game. He's really the only good running back they have right now. Maybe Marcel Reese behind him, but Darren McFadden's been poop all season.
Everybody in Oakland's playing for their job because they know the coaching staff's going to be fired, and it's going to be one of those fire sales. So if they want to still be on that team next year, they better be playing hard this week.
Carr's playing better recently, too, which helps. Tier 6, Pierre Thomas, who is questionable. His status is uncertain. Ryan Matthews, who is questionable. He's missed his last 2 games, and he's looking like he's going to miss his 3rd straight. So I really wouldn't consider him at this point unless you make sure he is going. And then Reggie Bush and Frank Gore.
Well, I guess if you want to lose, you could play Ryan Matthews if he was out.
Yeah, if you want to lose.
All right. Well, you just got to give him that option, right? What about Reggie Bush? Is he doing anything this week? 98 total yards, 1 touchdown. How many catches? 6?
Yeah, last week at
Against Chicago? Yeah, Chicago's garbage. Other than that, I don't think he's done much throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, he has Green Bay this week going into Green Bay. They let up the 11th fewest to fantasy running backs. He's been garbage all season. His one good game prior to last week did come against Green Bay, though, in Week 3. Hey, they're using him again. They're giving him the touches. Is it going to happen 2 weeks in a row? It's tough to say. That's why I have him in Tier 6 still. If he was going to play like he did last week, for sure, I'd have him up in Tier 2. But, yeah, they're giving him the ball now, so there is the opportunity for him at least.
Frank Gore's a scary matchup, too, going against Atlanta, who give up the 3rd fewest points to fantasy running backs. Gore has scored on the ground in each of the last 2 games, and they had 158 yards rushing last week versus San Diego. But they're another team in flux. Jim Harbaugh's most likely gone after the year. Gore's an aging veteran running back. We all know they don't stick around a lot. Are they going to play him much? Are they going to play Hyde? Are they going to play any other young running back? You know what I mean? Do they really want to win this game, or do they want to see what they got for next year?
I think the problem is Hyde isn't healthy, so he may not even play in this game. So they might have to stick with Frank Gore. Their other running backs, they're really not looking at as future running backs. So it's either Frank Gore or nothing, pretty much.
They could always move Kaepernick to running back.
Tier 7, Doug Martin, Isaiah Caldwell, Chris Johnson, and Toby Gerhart, who is questionable.
Gerhart sneaks back into 7 because Robinson's out for the rest of the year.
Well, listen, he had 53 yards and a touchdown last week on just 12 carries. It was Tennessee, but he had a season-high 54 yards at Baltimore the week before, and Baltimore can really stop the run. He's actually been playing better recently, and he's not the worst play.
So now he has a streak like Antonio Brown, double-digit carries with 50-plus yards rushing in back-to-back weeks.
That isn't as impressive. Tier 8, Brandon Oliver, Roy Haley Jr., Shane Vereen, and LeGarrette Blount, who is questionable.
Smoke him if you got him, Blount. You know why he's questionable? He got stoned and fell down and hit his head, and now he has a concussion, and they don't know whether he's still stoned or if it's still the concussion symptoms.
Could be both.
Yeah, and listen, New England's running backs, your joke sucked. New England running backs.
I enjoyed it.
New England running backs.
New England running backs.
Yes, New England running backs.
We figured out what we're talking about.
No, but listen, I wouldn't want to play any of them this week because you don't even know how long they're going to play their starters. You don't know who's going to start. They also just signed another running back. So they have Jonas Gray, LeGarrette Blount, Shane Vereen, and I forget James White is the other guy. So with Blount not healthy, so it's hard to trust any running back in this offense. But if I'm going to go with one, I'm going to go with Shane Vereen just because he can be used in the passing game as well.
Well, how about Roy Haley Jr. You got to love him in the passing game against Dallas. You know, it's they could be throwing a lot early and often that game. You know, he's definitely used exclusive in that passing attack. So, I mean, he's definitely a guy, you know, who could definitely help you out catching that ball and, you know, possibly even add a few carries also.
Yeah, he missed the last 3 games, but when he was playing, he was getting double digits. So, at this point, this is a Tier 8 guy. This is a pretty nice sleeper if he is healthy and ready to go.
Is he Hawaiian?
He's
Or
Halluin.
Or is he Native American? Wouldn't it be funny if there was a Native American playing for the Redskins?
Could be Samoan.
All right, Tier 9. Bishop Cupo Sankey. Darren, best friends with Big Easy Sproles. Devontae Freeman. Chris Ivory. And Jacquez Rogers.
Steven Jackson's out, so it's going to be Devontae Freeman and Jacquez Rogers. Rogers may get the start, but to me, Freeman looked better last week. He had 36 yards and a touchdown and added 3 catches for 48 yards. Rogers didn't play too terrible either, but I think Devontae Freeman has the higher upside.
Sproles going against Giants. He had 6 catches for 43 yards last week against Washington, and they have a pretty stout run defense. Giants' run defense is garbage. I think Philly's going to have a run-heavy offense this week. Mark Sanchez is probably going to run into somebody and drop the ball. Sproles will pick it up and run it in for a touchdown. Luckily, Philly will win. My pick of the week covers, and Darren Sproles has a big week.
Tier 10. Joseph Randle, Jonas Gray, Charles Sims, and James White.
Is he one of the other Jonas brothers?
What, Jonas Gray?
Yeah.
You already did this joke.
Lame.
Recycling material already, man. We're still in the first
Week
season
17.
here.
This is hard. These jokes are hard to come up with. Not everybody has a good name like Jimmy Santa Clausen.
Well, listen, how about Joseph Randle at Washington? It is a tough matchup. They're pretty good against the run, but like we said, DeMarco Murray, he's injured right now. Dallas doesn't have much to play for. He might see some extended playing time this week.
Believe it.
And then there's New England's running backs, Jonas Gray, James White. James White, they just brought on to the team. Who knows? He could put up 4 touchdowns for all we know.
Probably. Brady ain't even going to play. They're going to run it 55 times.
Tier 11, Stephon Taylor, Jordan Todman, Zerlin Tipton, and C.J. Spiller.
Who is Jordan Todman and Zerlin Tipton?
Well, Jordan Todman is the Jaguars' backup running back.
Okay.
Like I said, Toby Gerhart may not play. If not, Todman's played pretty well in spurts this season. He had 71 yards and a TD last week. Again, that was against Tennessee, though, the worst defense in the league. He just did it on 5 carries, though, so he didn't get a ton of touches. But if Gerhart does sit, then Todman may see pretty much extended playing time, and he might get something done. Zerlin Tipton, you want to know about this guy?
If you want to tell me about him.
This is the Colts running back. He's going to back up Boom Herron. Like we said, the Colts may not play their starters all game. Trent Richardson is garbage. This guy is better than him. He had 4 catches last week and a touchdown, so he is being used.
He's tiptoeing his way up to number 2 on the depth chart, right?
Yeah, pretty much, because Trent Richardson is the biggest bust in football.
And what about C.J. Spiller? You know, you think he's a potential sleeper?
Definitely a potential sleeper because this guy can break a 90-yard touchdown, a 60-yard touchdown. He only had 8 touches last week, but he could see more playing time this week as he gets healthier.
Well, he's definitely a guy to keep your eye on and to definitely think about, you know, especially against that New England run defense.
Tier 12, Trent Richardson,
Garbage!
Terrence West, D'Angelo Williams, and now Davis.
I think Jamal Charles may be a little banged up, so he may not play as much as everybody thinks. Now Davis could have a big game. San Diego gives up the 15th fewest points to fantasy running backs. He got nothing going last week behind Charles, but I don't know. Like I said, Charles may be hurt. Alex Smith's hurt. They got, who the hell they got playing at quarterback? Chase Daniels. So they're definitely going to be running the ball. Even if Charles is healthy, they're going to have to involve Davis in the offense.
D'Angelo Williams could be a nice deep sleeper just because he goes up against the worst run defense in football, so there's always a chance he can break one too.
I figured he'd get hemorrhoids and wouldn't be able to play. Well, that wraps up our last running back fantasy football segment for the year 2014. I want to thank you